Hello guys, welcome to my new video, and today we'll do the monthly update of the gubernatorial elections we'll have this year, many of them quite competitive, and many incumbents retiring. Many of them because they were forced to, and other because they're just the option they will do this time. So this is actually very competitive, and we're gonna have a lot of them, especially I would say Kansas is one of the most competitive ones, surprisingly, because it is a very red state. But it has a Democratic incumbent. I don't think Lori Kelly can run for re-election. That's why she is retiring. And also in Wisconsin, Democratic governor retiring. In Arizona, Democratic governor running for re-election. In Vermont and New Hampshire, two Republicans in blue states, if you consider New Hampshire a blue state as well. In Oregon, surprising competitive race in 2022. Nevada, a Republican that is in a very competitive state, especially because Latinos, over the course of the last few months, they've been going towards the Democratic Party quite a bit. Especially we saw that in Virginia, in New Jersey, and in New York City mayoral race as well. And in Georgia, Brian Kemp, a very strong incumbent, retiring because he is forced due to the mandate, two mandates consecutively. So he is retiring, and he will leave there a space that we'll see if any candidate is able to fill. Also in Minnesota, Tim Walz is retiring. He announced that he will not run for re-election because of the scandals in the welfare in Minnesota. Okay, so that's why he's not running for re-election. In New York, a strong but not very popular governor, Kathy Hochul, a very unpopular governor there, and it's running for re-election. We'll see if that will play it out or if she is going to get primared by any of his liberal partners, okay? And that's it, I think. Pennsylvania, we have Josh Shapiro running for re-election. And Michigan also as well, a Democratic retiring in Michigan. So we'll see a new governor in the state, a beautiful state of Michigan. In Illinois, same thing as well. I think Pitzer is not running for re-election, and I think that's it. Okay, in California, we'll have Gavin Newsom, of course, running for re-election. That'll be just, I don't know if he can run for election. I think we'll see about that, but okay. So let's just go for the states that are very safe, okay? California, Oregon. Even though Oregon was quite competitive in 2022, look at this, 4 points, but it was because of the strength of the Republican candidate, Christine Dorson. But I don't think that will happen again, so that's why I'll say this will go towards the Democratic Party by a good margin. I'll say also Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maryland, even though governor races are sometimes a little bit different than partisan senatorial and partisan member of the House races. Okay, why? Because sometimes people vote with the candidate and not with the party. You saw that, for example, Larry Hogan in Maryland becoming governor, also in Massachusetts, another Republican, and you see that sometimes happening. That's why we have, for example, in Vermont, we'll have Phil Scott, and in New Hampshire we have Kelly Ayotte, because it's the strength of the name. And sometimes people inside the Republican Party don't like Phil Scott. They call him a rhino, a Republican in name only, because he doesn't side with the Republican Party, or the now Republican Party, the MAGA Party, if you will, and that's why many Republicans are just mad at him. But he is a Republican. He's registered as a Republican. That's why I would say so. He is one of them. Maine will go towards the Democrats, but it can be a little bit competitive. Illinois as well, Colorado, New Mexico, even though New Mexico, we got a very competitive race with Ronchetti. Ronchetti was a great candidate. He did it competitive, even though it doesn't matter. And no, it was not for the governor in Colorado. It was in the senatorial race in Colorado in 2022. I'm sorry. And towards the Republican, I would say Wyoming, Idaho, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas as well. Because come on, Greg Abbott. I know many people don't like him. You cannot like you have the option of not liking him, but against Beto O'Rourke, which is one of the most popular candidates in the whole history of Texas, because he was able to enthusiasm a lot of people. He went to all the counties for campaigning. He did that competitive race in 2018 against Ted Cruz. He only lost by 2 in the state of Texas. It's quite conservative, especially in the very rural parts of Texas. it's quite a shame to be Democratic, if you will, in those parts. It's a very big state and very conservative. But now I don't think Greg Abbott will see any candidate like Beto O'Rourke, even though Trump's approval rating is down. You can say that, but Biden was in a worse position if you consider that, because I have here the graphic. Right now, Trump's approval rating is around 44%, and you can consider this is a bad result. It is, but if you compare to Biden at the same rate, Biden was doing even poorly at 42%. So we don't have met too many popular presidents, because you know how things are. We have a very polarized country, and that's why it is really hard to appeal more than just your base. And Trump is a king on that, if you will, because he only appeals to his base, and he will get, even though he can do the poorest job ever. I'm not saying he's doing it, because that's up to you to decide, but he cannot go below like 40%, because he will have his MAGA supporters supporting him until death, even though they are a little bit antagonized because of all the Epstein files not being released and all of that stuff. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene, a long supporter of him, is retiring. She basically quit the job as a member of the House for the 14th district, and will have the election on March the 10th. But that's it. I mean, you can have a lot of disagreements, but a lot of people is still very loyal to the president. That's why he still has a good approval rating if you consider past history, okay? And I will say Arkansas will stay towards it. The Republicans also Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, Iowa. Even though Iowa can be a little bit tricky, Alaska, because Peltola, if she's gonna run, will be for the Senate, I think, not for the House. I'm sorry, for the governor. Hawaii will stay Democratic, that's for sure. And Pennsylvania will go to Josh Shapiro, okay? I know Pennsylvania is a swing state, senatorial speaking, also presidential speaking. I don't care about this. Josh Shapiro is a very popular governor. He'll win this in a landslide. I mean, more than 10 points, I would say. And Kathy Hochul is probably going to win in New York as well. Not by a very big margin, though, okay? It's not going to be by a very big margin, because she's not popular, and she has a little bit of disagreements with Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, just right here, okay? And we'll see if Zohran Mamdani will not light another candidate into the primary, and probably primarying Kathy Hochul in the primaries for governor of New York. Okay, and Florida will stay Republican, because it's a Byron Donalds will probably win the nominee for the Republican Party, and consequently the race. Right now we have the most competitive races. I would say just for a minute, Minnesota will stay blue, because even though Trump did quite well, okay, and Tim Walz is not a popular governor. We saw that. Kamala was barely able to win Minnesota, even though she had the governor right now, even governor of Minnesota. So that was quite sad for her, because she had all the keys, and even though she was not able to do better than Biden, she even did poorly, only winning by around 3 points, if I'm not mistaken, which is very bad for a candidate that had the governor. Okay, for example, Trump had the senator of Ohio. It doesn't really matter, because Ohio is still a Republican state. But okay, you see my point. When you choose a candidate from a state that is Minnesota, it's a quite competitive state, even though it leans towards the Democrats. And it didn't vote Republican since 1970 or so, because look, in that whole election that Ronald Reagan was able to win against Walter Mondale in 1982 or 1983. I'm not so sure about the numbers, but it's somewhere on the ballpark of those years. She was not. Yeah, I'm sorry. Ronald Reagan was not able to win Minnesota, even though, because it was the home state of Walter Mondale, and that's what happened. So Minnesota is a very democratic state in terms of voting with the Democrats. Doesn't mean it is a very democratic state in terms of the other parts, in terms of having a huge margin, because it's not. I would say Michigan will stay Democratic, even though we do have some competitive polls. Let's just go to the Michigan race, because it do have some competitive polls there in the Democratic primary. But Benson will probably be the candidate in the Republican primary. James will probably be the candidate, and this will be a very competitive race. And we'll see if the James can actually make it thing more competitive. But I would say right now, given the approval rating of Trump, I would say this is going to go towards the Democrats. In Ohio, I think it will go towards the Republicans. Vivek Ramaswamy is probably going to win the primary. I don't know if we have polls, but I think I can check. Okay, Ryan is losing against Ramaswamy, and probably will lose because the polls tend to underestimate Republicans in the state of Ohio specifically, okay? And I think this will go towards the Republicans a little bit more. Okay, and Georgia is a very interesting one. I'll leave to the last one, and also Kansas. Arizona, I think will stay Democratic, and Nevada, I think will flip Democratic, okay? Because Joe Lombardo, even though he's not so unpopular there. He only won by about 15,000 votes, 1.5 points, and I think in a much worse year for the Republicans. 2022 was not an amazing year, but it was much better in terms of the environment. I think this will go towards the Democrats, okay? Kansas. I think Kansas will go towards the Republicans, okay? Because of a very simple reason. Kansas is Kansas, very competitive state in terms of how Laura Kelly was able to win it, but it's a Republican state in his natural way of being, okay? And I think this will go towards the Republicans because Laura Kelly is not in the ballot anymore. She's not in the ballot, so she will not be as popular, or as people will not see this thing. Many independents that voted with the Democrats as enthusiastic to vote as they were in the past. That's why I think this will go towards the Republicans. Not by a very huge margin anyways, but probably by a substantial, I will say 5 points, a lead margin. And the last time we have Wisconsin. And even though, we still have Georgia, but Wisconsin will stay Democratic, even though this will be a much closer race than in 2022 because of all the retirement of the Tony Evers gubernatorial candidate. Okay, it was the governor of Wisconsin by a very big time, and he is retiring, so that's why I think this will go towards the Democrats still, because we have a Democratic linear. We have midterm in the during Trump's presidency. That means the Democrats are stronger. That's why I think Tony Evers is going to win this. And in Georgia, I would say the Democrats are going to win Georgia because of a very simple reason. Brian Kemp was very effective at winning the suburbs, at winning all of the communities around Cobb County, making things more competitive. Look, Trump lost this by 18 or so. He only lost by 4. The Cobb County, it's not one of the worst, but if you go here to Fayette, Trump won this by 2, he won by 14. So inside the suburbs, Brian Kemp was very effective. Trump is not able to do that, and if we have any mega candidate, I can check what are the polls saying. Let me check here. Where is Georgia? Maybe we don't have Georgia. Look at our open. I'm just correctly mistaken. I'm just going to say something. We're not going to have Gavin Newsom again in California because of all of the limits during his term. Okay, he cannot run for 2 consecutive terms. I don't know where is Georgia. I can find Georgia, but okay. Okay, it's here. Jones, this is the former Secretary of State. I'm not so sure how to say his name. Raffensperger. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry to him personally, but yeah, I'm not so sure about that. If he's a candidate, probably he is able to win, but I'm not so sure about that because he only won because he was in the same ballot as Brian Kemp. We'll see about that, but I think so far this will be the map. Georgia is going to stay blue until something changes, because it could be. And right now you have a 25 to the Democrats and 25 to the Republicans, which is a very competitive and polarized nation. Guys, this was the video. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you're new as well. And we'll see you tomorrow with another video. Thank you.